All right, welcome back to Sunrise. Now that our bellies are full,
indeed,
it's time to travel. In Diaspora Link Up this morning, we have the honor of speaking with Dr. Damion Blake, an associate professor renowned for his expertise in political science and policy studies. Hailing from Jamaica, Dr. Blake has made significant contributions to academia, research and public discourse, both in his home country and abroad, shedding light on critical issues ranging from Caribbean politics to immigration matters. Dr. Blake joins us this morning from North Carolina. Good morning. Welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning.
Good morning, Yendi. Good morning, Yendi. Good morning, Dennis. How are
morning.
you?
Oh, good.
You see, and you know, Dr. Blake had a funny feeling, you know. So just before we came on, I was kind of saying, you know, I could have given you a little of the Alfredo, but he said no. Having a better location with better food options. And then he sips his tea and he said, let me just rub it in.
I want to say it's better, but it's close.
Close, you know.
On the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Just 4 hours east from Greensboro, where I live and work.
Yeah.
And there's shrimp aplenty.
Nice. You told us where you are now. Walk us through the journey of how you ended up there from Jamaica and doing your PhD at Virginia Tech.
All right, so, well, the journey starts, bringing back to grade 1. Should I start from grade 1 as Spanish done primary?
Sure.
I'll be quick. Yeah, so, you know, my journey starts there. I went to public schools in Jamaica. Spanish Town Primary is where the magic all began. And then I was a common entrance student, so one of the common entrance generation, and went to the St. Catherine High School.
Oh, yeah.
Let me repeat that. The St. Catherine High
Thank
School.
you very much.
And yes, and at St. Catherine High, I was really exposed to some very good teachers. We had very good teachers there, and they really, piqued my interest in the world around me. And by the time I got to sixth form, with the likes of people like Dennis Brooks, who was right there, we were really grappling with global issues, political issues. And I think in the sixth form book, if I remember well, I wanted to be a professor and a politician. Well, we saw how that one turned out. I've decided to step away from the politician side and to perhaps, study and, observe the politics, as it were. So from St. Catherine High, I went to UWI and did an undergraduate in history and political science minor. And it was at UWI where I fell in love with politics. I fell in love with governments and how governments work. And then I did a master's at UWI and worked at UWI actually for, I'd say, 5 years while teaching at the Queen's School. So I was a teacher at one point in time, believe it or not, teaching history at the Queen's School. And then, I think about 2008, I got a full scholarship to go to Virginia Polytechnic State and University to do my PhD in political science. So that's kind of the fast track of how I got to Virginia Tech in 2008.
But one of the things I find interesting about your work since then is that you ventured into having a laser focus on violence and particularly gangs and the way gangs are structured. Your book is focused on that. What got you into the study of gangs and gang violence?
Well, Dennis, it's a very interesting question, and I'm glad you asked that question. Before 2010, of course, growing up in Jamaica, I would hear about violence, that type of thing. I never really understood it. And it was the events of 2010, if Jamaicans remember, with the whole Tivoli incursion. I was like, what is going on here? I saw people out with their placards, and being a Jamaican, yes, I would hear about violence, I'd hear about gangs, I'd hear about bad men and those things, but never really understood how it worked. And so that, kind of clicked in my head, and I began to dig a little bit further. And, from that kind of curiosity about what is this thing that is at the underbelly of my country that I lived in for so many years and never really understood about it. And so I started to probe around, read some books, talk to some people, and that eventually led me to doing about 10 months of anthropological work in several communities in Jamaica, several what we call garrison communities in Jamaica, to understand this feature of our society, of our culture, actually. I mean, the dark side, if you will, of the Jamaican society and culture, this problem around violence and gang violence. So that's how I kind of got into it in 2010 in a very intimate and deep kind of way.
Dr. Blake, some would say that's not something that can be studied because it's so subjective, it varies in each space. Obviously, you studied it deeply and in depth, and when you take on something like that, are you able to conclusively say, these are the findings, and as such, we can put these things in place? Or is it the kind of thing where you just say, you know what, we have options A to D, which could possibly work, we have to cast a net? What's the take? What's the takeaway from a dissertation or a study of that nature?
Yeah, certainly the findings that you will have, these things continue to evolve, right? When I did this deep study in 2012, it was spending 10 months there, the kinds of things that I had recommended, some of which I have seen being working or have been implemented in communities. But I view it as something that is evolutionary, right? There isn't a one size that fits all. There's the one cap that fits all. And you're talking about human nature, and things will shift and things will change. Now, having said that, Dennis and Yendi, there are some things that don't actually change that much, right? There are some structure. If you go into literature, you talk about the structural factors around violence and crime, for example. And if those structural things don't shift or change or aren't really attended to, then you will have similar or the same kinds of outcomes.
Gotcha.
Got you. Let's talk a little bit before we wrap up about you as a Jamaican in the diaspora and some of the stuff that you're doing. For instance, I found that your courses are very popular at your university. I mean, you've gone now, and it's not just about being a Jamaican, but about understanding black men in America. Like, I mean, I find that as an interesting dimension now, that you as a Jamaican in the space, educating black men in America about themselves.
Yes. Yeah, very interesting. Dennis Yendi, I recognized that I was black when I got here in the United States. I didn't know that before. Of course, we know that in Jamaica, we stretch on in the castles of our own skins, right? We're very confident about who we are and where we are from and what we're about. And so when I came here in 2008, I had an incident where I asked a young lady to, where's the library at Virginia Tech? And so I was walking towards her. It is a white young female, and she began to clutch onto her bags, and she was moving in the opposite direction. And I was like, wow, what's going on here? And instinctively, I pulled up my ID card to say, I'm a student here at Virginia Tech. I just need to know where the library is. And so from then, I said, I need to understand what is this thing. And so along with my research in violence, I also took on this juggernaut about race relations and the black body in the United States. And so, yes, at Elon, I developed a course called The Black Man in America. That course was, the university made a call when you had the various incidents around police excessive use of force and understand more about why is that happened. And so I said, okay, me. And I developed the course, and students, they flock to that course, and it's really a discovery. And as a Jamaican, one of the things that Jamaicans bring into spaces like the United States and the UK is that we don't have the same kinds of sensibilities. Right. We don't have the kinds of blinders around race and identity that other blacks or what they call African Americans, which is a word I really don't quite understand why it's African Americans in this country. And so because we don't have those kinds of sensibilities and blinders, we engage the conversation in different kinds of ways, and in ways that are developmental rather than others.
Definitely. Great talking with you, Dr. Blake. Yes. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Brilliant stuff. That was Dr. Damion Blake, Associate Professor of Political Science and Policy Studies at Elon University. Coming up after the break, it's Law and Order JA. We'll be right back.